Never Feed Jenny. Written by swapThing. Narrated by Bekah-bekah Audios. Featuring Pumpkin Queen and AngelCore VA.
My mom finished setting up the dinner table. A silence fell over my family. Jenny stopped laughing and closed her coloring book. She was young but understood the rules. She walked down to the basement and my dad locked the door behind her. The food would be out soon and we didn't want to tempt her. I walked over to the dining room and waited for the food to be out. I was never sure where they kept it. I just knew that they went out of the sliding door and came back in that way with the food. The food smelled wonderful. It always did. As we sat down, I watched my mother serve the food. She seemed so calm and normal. I could hardly believe all the research I did. If it didn't come from my best friend, I wouldn't believe it either. My parents were abusing my sister. I moved the food around on my plate, wondering how much I could push onto my napkin without them noticing. I had a few peas in my mouth and chewed slowly. Ashley, my younger sister, was slowly eating her food. She wasn't very curious about Jenny anymore. She stopped asking a few months ago. When Jenny was born, I was 9, and always asked why no one gave her food.
She can't ever eat,
my mother had answered. Why? I had asked.
Because your sister is special,
my mom had said. Looking back, I gave up too easily. I never asked enough questions. Jenny was never hungry. Even when I asked her, she said she wasn't hungry. As a baby, I'd never seen her eat either. She never cried either. A fourth of my plate was already in my napkin. It was probably as much as I could sneak off with. My parents usually took our plates and threw the rest of the food down the garbage disposal. They mixed soap in with it. They also checked our pockets. No one had ever tried to sneak her food. We'd believed everything our parents had ever said. I slipped my napkin into the pocket. They probably wouldn't pat us down today. They had yesterday. It was rare nowadays for them to check us. My mother took my plate and pushed the food into the disposal. We usually all lined up like little sheep to turn in our food. My dad kissed me on my cheek as I walked away. An hour after dinner and cleanup, Jenny was allowed back upstairs. We didn't talk about dinner with her. We just acted like nothing happened. My parents sat on either side of the rooms watching every move we made. Today, my mother was a little more distracted. She texted someone every few minutes. Jenny was playing with her dolls. She was so sweet and innocent. The second Cammy explained to me that my family wasn't normal and doing something terrible, I felt bile rise in my throat. At 10, we were all in bed. My parents were also in bed. My phone vibrated. It was Cammy. She was ready with a plan. Soon, her car alarm was going off outside our house. The footsteps warned me as my parents made their way downstairs. I followed behind, dipping into their room first. Cammy promised they would have spare keys, and they did. I grabbed every key I saw. The door to the basement where Jenny slept was locked. I tried every key, hands trembling till one finally fit. There was only a few keys, but it was enough for now. They'd go to the police soon. They just needed evidence. I slipped in just before my parents came in. The alarm was done. As I walked down the dark stairs, my phone light led the way. Jenny was at the bottom of the stairs in her bed. I walked over to her and shook her gently. She was confused but awake.
What's going on?
She said groggily. Shush, I said, and brought some peas out of the napkin. I rolled some peas into her mouth. She chewed them slowly, not sure what it was.
I'm not supposed to eat,
Jenny said. I felt tears forming in my eyes. You have to. She chewed the peas and seemed no different. She just looked up at me. I kept feeding her until it was done. She went back to bed and I stayed with her. I took pictures and even a video. I got all the evidence I needed. I heard her cry a little behind me. She was puking. Her face looked scared as she kept puking. Black sludge came out of her mouth. She retched and a tiny light blinked in the corner.
Jenny, are you okay?
My mom said. It was a baby monitor. My heart raced.
I'm okay.
Jenny said, but the sludge kept coming out of her mouth. My mom rushed downstairs and when she saw me, she looked shocked and angry.
You fed her!
She screamed. I heard more footsteps coming down. It must have been my dad. I wish I could disappear as I rushed over and helped Jenny. She cried after an hour of puking. After 2 hours, I felt myself leave my baby sister. Her face was red and filled with tears. By the time morning came, I was too stunned to ask. Jenny was no longer crying. The sludge was gone. When we walked upstairs in the morning, my mom turned to me and said 2 things I'll never forget.
Never do that again. Your sister's not like us, okay?
I nodded.
Get into bed.
She instructed. Breakfast went like it did as always. Jenny locked downstairs and everyone else eating upstairs. I helped Mom clean up the dishes and dispose of all the food.